7 bone-chilling teacher stories that haunt you this back-to-school season. As the summer sun set, casting eerie shadows over the empty schoolyard, whispers of haunting legends filled the air like a chill wind. Parents gripped their children's hands tighter as they walked past the old brick building, where stories of lost souls and eerie encounters lingered. Was it just the rustling leaves, or did you hear the soft giggle of a child in the deserted classroom? Countless families had reported strange happenings, doors slamming shut on their own, cold spots lingering in the hallways, and phantom teachers known to flicker in and out of existence. It was spine-tingling, sending shivers down spines as eager kids headed back to the classroom. Take Mrs. Thompson, the beloved history teacher. Every year, she'd mysteriously disappear right before finals, leaving students baffled and grades hanging in the balance. Some said she was lost in time, trapped in one of her own lessons. Her desk, always piled high with old textbooks, would sometimes be found waiting with an eerie glow, a mural of shadows breathing life into long-forgotten tales. Just last fall, when one student opened that very desk, a crumbling note fell out, claiming, "She's been waiting for you, do you dare take her test?" In another corner of the school, the gym echoed with strange sounds at night. Legends talked of the ghostly coach who couldn't bear to leave. On quiet evenings, a basketball would roll across the floor, bouncing rhythmically against the gym walls, almost as if it were calling out for a player. With a growing tension in the air, students dared each other to sneak in and catch a glimpse of the spirit in action, fueling their fears and curiosity. What about the library? Needles of dread prickled the backs of those who dared to read past a certain hour. Rumor had it that the librarian, who had vanished decades ago, still sorted through the stacks, guiding would-be scholars toward the books they never knew they needed, whispering hints to the wise and casting warnings to the careless. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads-up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect, and let's not forget the field trips that turned into chilling adventures. A bus full of excited kids had once driven down a dirt road leading to a haunted, creepy mansion. When they explored, they claimed to hear the soft harmonies of a piano drifting through the air, only to find a key that no one could explain. It seemed, though long abandoned, something timeless never really left. Stories like these swirl around the school, like a fog that thickens with the turn of the seasons. As summer faded and autumn leaves crunched beneath their feet, the mystery deepened. What other secrets lay hidden in the buildings that shaped their lives? Who would be brave enough to unearth the truths lurking beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered? As the days grew shorter and the nights darker, the whispers grew sharper. Whispers turned into sentences, and sentences turned into dares. Students gathered in corners, their eyes wide with excitement and fear. They exchanged stories, each one more bizarre than the last. Each tale seemed to ignite a spark in their imaginations, burning with a truth that made their skin crawl. One chilly evening, a group of friends decided to venture where none had dared that season: Mrs. Thompson's old classroom. It was said that every student who challenged her test would feel the weight of history pressing down on them. The friends, fueled by bravado, crept through the dimly lit hallways, their footsteps echoing in the silence. They could almost hear the soft whispers of those who had come before them, urging them to turn back. The classroom door loomed ahead, slightly ajar, inviting yet foreboding. As they nudged it open, a rush of cold air washed over them, pushing them back a step. The room was suspended in time, filled with echoes of laughter and the faint scent of chalk. The sunlight barely pierced through the grimy windows, casting hauntingly warped shadows across the floor. "Are you sure we should be here?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Come on, it's just a classroom," Jake replied, masking his own unease with a forced grin. He stepped inside, followed by the rest, who were drawn in by their own reckless curiosity. They huddled together as they scanned the room. It felt alive, buzzing with a history they couldn't quite grasp. Then, they stumbled upon the old desk. As Jake approached it, a touch of light flickered from its surface, illuminating a faded envelope resting on top. His heart raced. "Guys, check this out," he called, pulling the note from the desk. The others squeezed closer, their breath catching in their throats as Jake unfolded it. "I am always waiting. Your courage is the key. Do you dare take my test?" It read, scrawled in a shaky hand that sent shivers down their spines. Before they could react, the temperature dropped dramatically. The air became thick, heavy. A sudden sound shattered the eerie stillness, the creaking of footsteps from behind them. They turned, and a figure materialized through the haze of shadows. Mrs. Thompson stood there, her once comforting smile twisted into an enigmatic expression. The room seemed to hold its breath, and a sense of dread seeped in. Her voice, soft yet commanding, echoed like thunder. "You think you're ready for a lesson after all this time?" Jake stumbled back, crashing into Sarah. We didn't mean to disturb you. We were just curious," he stammered. Curiosity can lead to discovery. Her eyes glinted dangerously, but it can also lead to regret. "What have you chosen?" Heart pounding, Sarah felt a flicker of something cold against her neck. The others hadn't noticed, too busy frozen in fear. She turned, and there it was, a chilling shadow creeping across the room, narrowing in on them. Just as fear solidified, the lights flickered violently. "We have much to discuss, the truth awaits," Mrs. Thompson whispered, her figure now wavering as if caught between the worlds. Before anyone could breathe, the room plunged into darkness. The friends clutched each other tightly, the heartbeat of fear quickening like a drum. What fate awaited them? Would they unravel the secrets of the past, or would they be ensnared in a lesson meant for eternity? As the shadows twisted and danced around them, one question stood out: were they truly ready to face what lay hidden in the depths of the school? Or was it already too late? Darkness enveloped them, wrapping around like a suffocating blanket. Each friend felt the weight of the cold air pressed against their skin, their hearts racing. A muffled whisper echoed, weaving through the dark a language they couldn't quite decipher. "Jake?" Sarah's voice trembled, cutting through the silence, barely a sound at all. "What is happening?" Jake whispered back, trying to sound brave. A shiver coursed through him as he remembered the warm sun outside, now feeling like a distant fantasy. The chill in the room grew thicker, prickling their skin. Jake strained his eyes, searching through the seemingly endless void. Then, a flicker of light materialized, casting distorted shadows against the walls. The barely perceptible glow formed a circle around them, illuminating their terrified faces. "Stay close," Jake urged as they instinctively huddled together, gripping each other's arms like lifelines. With each heartbeat, the shadows elongated, morphing into distorted figures that danced on the walls. Sarah gasped as one of the figures twisted, taking on a familiar shape, a younger version of Mrs. Thompson, her hair tied in a neat bun, but this time her eyes were wild, darting around in panic. "Don't let her take you!" The phantom Mrs. Thompson screamed. The echoes of her words carried a chilling authenticity, like they were being pulled straight from her past. "What does that mean?" Ethan shouted, voice cracking, trying to fend off the encroaching dread. "Perhaps it means this test goes deeper than you thought." A voice deeper than Mrs. Thompson's sent icy tendrils down their spines. Shadows twisted into a vague figure, an outline of someone they could almost make out the features. A man within the darkness, with wild hair and a sinister smile that seemed to shimmer like moonlight. "Leave us alone!" shouted Emily, her resolve shaking. What was happening? Why were they targeted by this darkness? Suddenly, the shadows receded, revealing a chalkboard smeared with chaotic writings, a jumble of symbols and equations that twisted the mind. "Solve the riddle, and you'll escape," the figure commanded, its grin widening. But answer wrong, and you'll be trapped here forever. What kind of riddle? Sarah's voice trembled, desperate. History holds the key, the answers you seek. The shadows began to swirl again, creating a whirlwind of whispers that rose and crashed around them, drowning out their thoughts. The room pulsed with the mounting tension as memories of students long gone echoed loudly in their minds, mixing with their own fears. Each friend's eyes locked together, fear grappling with fierce determination. They could feel Mrs. Thompson watching them, her presence solid yet ghostly. Remember what you know. She left clues. Jake urged, eyes darting between the grotesque figure and his friends. We have to think. As they assembled their thoughts, the chalkboard's symbols glowed brighter, flickering under their gaze, inviting yet terrifying. They needed to solve it. But with every passing second, the air grew heavier, the shadows darker. What if we fail? Ethan murmured, fear seeping in at the edges. With a shuddering breath, Sarah stepped forward, glancing at the twisted figure. We will not be afraid. As she spoke, the shadows recoiled slightly, as if her words ignited a flicker of light within the darkness. Let us do it together. She encouraged. They gathered their courage and their scattered knowledge. Would it be enough to unravel the test before them? Just as they began to delve into the cryptic symbols, a thunderous crash echoed through the room, causing the walls to shake. A breach opened, revealing a glimpse of something beyond the classroom, something dark and sinister, an abyss drawing them in like a powerful vortex. Quick! We have to decide. Jake shouted, panic in his eyes. But a horrible realization hit them. The test was only just beginning, and they would have to confront more than mere questions. They would face their deepest fears. Would they rise to the challenge, or would the shadows swallow them whole, as the walls trembled around them? They could almost hear Mrs. Thompson's final words of warning, a lesson they were already learning the hard way. With a shared glance, they knew they had no choice but to step forward into the unknown. Would they dare embrace the darkness, or was the light of hope flickering out? In the shadows, a new danger loomed. What awaited them on the other side? As the swirling vortex pulsed, an unbearable tension filled the air, and with bated breath, they took their first step into the dark unknown. The moment Jake's foot touched the edge of the swirling void, the world around them twisted violently. Colors bled into one another, and an upward spiraling sensation tugged at their very beings. Suddenly, they were no longer in the classroom, but suspended in an endless expanse of ink-black mist. I can't see anything. Emily shrieked, scrambling to grab Jake's hand, her nails digging into his skin. Hold on. Jake gasped, panic surging in his chest as he felt the cold void threaten to pull them apart. The others rallied around him, their faces pale and drawn, reflecting the surreal horror of the moment. As they fought to stay close, the atmosphere shifted, growing denser, almost alive. Whispered threats hung in the air, wrapping around them like icy fingers. Shut it out. Sarah cried, squeezing her eyes shut. We need to focus. Then the mist parted slightly, revealing haunting images dancing across the dark canvas, flashes of past students, a parade of smiles turning to screams. Each image gripped their hearts, amplifying their fears. An unfamiliar dread settled in, tightening its noose around their throats. Do you see that? Ethan's voice trembled, pointing to the far end of the abyss. There, a flickering light danced, beckoning them like a siren. But the closer they moved to it, the more the shadows morphed, whispering words laced with malice. Keep going just a little closer. The chilling echo of the enigmatic figure slid through the air, wrapping around them like a serpent. Should we? Emily hesitated, her voice a thin thread of trepidation. What if it's a trap? We have to take the risk. Jake shouted, though his heart pounded with uncertainty. It's our only chance. As they approached the flickering light, shadows coalesced in front of them, solidifying into grotesque shapes. Twisted faces emerged, each one appearing as a past student, their eyes wide with terror. Help us, one of them cried, but there was an unnatural echo that sent chills down their spines. "Stop! You're not real!" Sra yelled, stepping forward defiantly. The whole group watched as her resolve pushed against the shadowy figures. The air grew heavier, and the dark shapes hesitated, taken aback by her sudden strength, but even as she stood firm, a reality dawned. These were manifestations of their own fears, memories captured in darkness. Each of their pasts began to swirl together, creating a storm of regret and anxiety. History holds the key, Jake thought, recalling the figure's words. What if these shadows want something from us? A memory? With swift resolution, he reached inside his heart, searching for the deepest pain the moment he lost his younger brother, the guilt of not being there. "Take it!" Jake shouted, releasing the burden of his grief into the air. The shadows quaked, swirling violently, and one by one, the images began to shift, revealing their own memories. An anguished cry erupted from Emily. The realization hit her hard. These shadows represent our past. We can't ignore them. In a moment of unity, each friend began to face their battles. Sra let go of her fear of failure. Ethan embraced the shame of his mistakes. They spoke out their pains into the swirling darkness, feeling lighter with each word released, but then, in a sudden flash, the shadows congealed into a large, looming figure that eclipsed the flickering light. It was a monstrous fusion of all their fears, echoing their secrets in a chilling voice. "You think you can just abandon us?" A deafening roar erupted as the figure lunged towards them, and instinct kicked in. They had shared their fears, but now they had to fight to escape. Together! Jake shouted, and the friends stood shoulder to shoulder, hands linked, facing the monstrous shadow that loomed above them. In that moment of collective courage, a luminous sphere began to pulse bright at their center, fueled by their newfound strength. Would it be enough to fend off the darkness, or would it consume them whole? Just as the shadow surged forward, ready to engulf them all, the brilliant light expanded, illuminating the abyss. And they felt the heat radiate from their combined will. But what they found beyond the light was just another darkness that made their skin crawl. A looming doorway stood before them, whispering even deeper secrets. "Do we dare?" Emily mused with wide eyes, glancing back at the darkness. "We have to," Jake replied, fueling the fire within. They hesitated only for a moment, and with hearts racing, they moved towards the doorway of uncertainties. Yet, what awaited them on the other side was a question neither dared to voice aloud. The moment they passed through the doorway, a rush of icy wind enveloped them, sending shivers down their spines. They stumbled out onto a narrow path that twisted through a dark forest, ancient trees looming like silent sentinels. Gnarled branches clawed at the starless sky, while the scent of damp earth filled the air, thick and choking. "Where are we now?" Sra's voice wavered, her eyes darting around, searching for any sign of safety. The shadows danced around them, whispering their fears back at them, mocking and relentless. "I don't know," Jake admitted, his heart pounding. "But it doesn't feel like we're safe yet." As they ventured deeper into the forest, the path twisted sharply. A low growl echoed from the depths of the trees, sending a jolt of fear through the group. "What was that?" Ethan whispered, his voice barely audible over the growing darkness. "I don't think we should stick around to find out," Jake said, glancing back the way they had come, but all he saw was thick shadow, swallowing the light from the doorway. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and a loud crack filled the air, followed by a series of unnatural shrieks that made everyone's skin crawl. Out of the darkness, a figure emerged, a tall, gaunt teacher in tattered clothing, face obscured by a wispy veil of shadows. "Welcome, students," the figure hissed, the words slithering like a serpent through their minds. "You have come seeking answers, but answers come at a cost. What do you want from us?" Emily demanded, her body tense, holding tightly to Jake's arm. "Your fears, your grief, your regrets, they feed this place." The teacher stepped closer, eyes glinting with an otherworldly intensity. "You cannot escape this cycle until you confront the truth hiding within you." Jake glanced at his friends. Each of them wore expressions of confusion and fear. "Don't listen to it," Jake shouted, trying to mask his own shattering resolve. But the shadows around them thickened, vibrating with dark energy, urging them to accept their burdens. "Do you truly believe you can defy the inevitable? You're all connected to this realm," the teacher cackled, reaching out a bony finger. "I can show you what you are missing. The secrets you harbor could change everything." It struck Jake, then the other students who hovered near, shadows of those that had fallen within this realm. They had faced their own demons and had been consumed. They couldn't let this happen to them. "Remember our light," Jake yelled suddenly, breaking through the fear that threatened to suffocate him. He felt the warmth of their earlier brightness sparking a flicker of hope within. "Together," Sra echoed again, and this time, they all focused inward, summoning the glowing strength they had found beyond the mist. The luminous sphere blazed intensely, pushing back against the darkness. "Release the truth," Jake strained, feeling the pulse of warmth spread through their hands. It was no longer just about fear, it was about resilience, standing firm together against the overwhelming despair. The darkness recoiled as their combined will ignited a bright flash, dispersing some of the shadows still flitting nearby. But the teacher only laughed, a high-pitched, thin sound that echoed off the trees. "You think that's enough? This darkness will consume all unless you finally face what you truly fear the most." Just then, an echo reverberated through the forest. Their past screamed back at them, and one by one, memories started tumbling into their minds: loss, betrayal, failure. Each painful event erupted into the air, swirling like a storm. Jake felt a surge of dread at the thought of his brother's death, but beneath it, a steely resolve began to crystallize. "We can do this," he shouted, the words igniting the others. They locked eyes, holding tight, as the night sighed around them, the teacher's menacing presence beginning to fade as their light grew more potent. But just as the looming figure began to break apart, a chilling realization struck him: the answers they sought lay deeper still in the shadows, and the teacher was but a guardian of the truths they needed to unravel. "Jake! Look!" Emily's voice tremored, as a flicker of movement caught her eye. There, hidden among the trees, shadows shaped like memories twisted together like a door within a door, begging to be opened. "Will you dare to go deeper?" The teacher's voice lingered, tauntingly echoing behind them. With hearts racing and uncertainty gripping them, they stood on the precipice of a revelation, knowing full well that what lay ahead could either save them or plunge them further into darkness. The shadows pulsed with an unsettling energy, as if the very forest itself breathed alongside them. Jake felt his heart race faster. The flickering memory door loomed like a portal to another world, but the hesitation gripped his throat, cold and tight. "Are we really going to do this?" Sra's voice trembled, the words barely escaping her lips. "What if it's a trap?" This could be our only chance," Jake said, desperation rising in him. He could see Ethan inching closer, curiosity battling fear in his wide, fearful eyes. "Maybe it's how we break free," Emily whispered, and the resolve in her voice ignited a spark in Jake's chest. The haunting visage of the teacher swirled around them, dark and whispering, like a fog that sank into their skin. Just as Jake opened his mouth to urge them forward, a pain shot through his mind. Images swirled like a nightmare, memories of his brother flooding back, bright smiles eclipsed by a darker shadow. "No," he gasped, clenching his teeth. He didn't want to relive those moments again, but the pull was too strong, and then, without warning, the ground shifted beneath them. Roots erupted from the soil, snaking like tendrils around their feet. Frantic, Jake pulled away, but it was too late. The shadows surged, and with it, a collective cry of terror echoed, reverberating in Jake's bones. "Hold on!" Jake shouted, feeling the energy rise between them like a wave. "We're stronger together." They gripped each other tightly, and for a flicker of a moment, the fear that clawed at their insides began to wane. The darkness around them trembled, reacting to the strength of their bond. Light flowed from their hands, illuminating the horror, revealing distorted shapes hiding in the dark figures of those who never found their way out. "Look!" Ethan cried, pointing towards the door. But what Jake saw froze him in place. Within that light, the shadows took on human form, all their worst fears made real, creeping toward them like a tide of agony. A woman with tear-soaked eyes stretched out her hands, dark hair hanging like wet rags. "Help me," she whispered, her voice like a haunting lullaby that told of despair and longing. They realized these spirits had become trapped by their own past hurts, endlessly replaying the moments of their tragedies. "Don't listen!" Jake shouted, battling his own rising dread. "They're trying to pull us in. Stay focused." But just as he spoke, Sarah turned, her face pale as she confronted the figure. "Mom?" The name slipped through her lips like a ghost from the grave, a wave of worry crashing into them all. "No!" Jake yelled, trying to push her back. But it was too late. The bond between Sarah and that shadow twisted like a noose, tightening around her throat. The apparition reached out, pulling Sarah into a cold embrace. "Sarah!" Jake lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. The pressure of her fear seeped into him, mixing with frantic thoughts about his brother and all he had lost. "Let her go!" Emily screamed, her light flickering as she tried to rally them. But the shadows surrounded them, closing in with a growl. A cacophony of whispers filled the air, threading doubts into their hearts, each one a shard of reality slipping away. "What do we do?" Ethan shouted, fear gripping his words. "Face it!" Jake yelled, summoning every ounce of courage he could find. "We have to confront our pain, our deepest fears. Only then will we break free." The ground quaked, shaking the very roots of their resolve, but they stood firm. Together. They echoed, voices rising despite the terror threatening to pull them apart. They had to reach within, find that hard truth buried deep in their hearts. The shadows writhed, reaching for them, while the teacher's cruel laughter echoed behind, promising torment if they failed. But in that moment, Jake felt something shift deep inside, the warmth of the light expanding. Just then, silver hands broke through the darkness, grasping towards them, clawing at memories that refused to let go. "You're not afraid." A voice thundered from the depths of his mind. "You're stronger than this." Jake steadied himself, and suddenly, a blinding light erupted. But as the shadows flickered, something twisted around him, a chilling whisper hung in the air. You haven't faced the worst yet. The stillness that followed felt heavy and ominous, as if the forest itself held its breath in anticipation, waiting for them to take the next step into the unknown. What other horrors awaited them in the darkness, and could they confront them together? With uncertainty coursing through their veins, they stood at the threshold of discovery, knowing that if they took the leap, the answers could either unify them or tear them apart, shattering their fragile hope into pieces. The air crackled with tension, every heartbeat echoing in Jake's ears. The shadows seemed to whisper around them, shifting and waiting, as if they were alive, waiting for the moment they would choose whether to leap forward or to retreat back into the sanctuary of their unknowing. "Jake, we can't, it's too risky." Sarah's voice echoed, her breath shaky as she struggled against the growing grip of the figure that mirrored her mother. Every ounce of her existence strained against her fear, yet the delicate connection pulled her nearer to the edge. "No. No." Jake felt desperation claw at him, burning through his chest. He had to reach Sarah. He had to pull her back, but the shadow's icy fingers crept closer to his own heart, threatening to drain his light. "Hold on to my hand." Jake screamed, grasping tightly onto her, anchoring himself in a reality that seemed ready to collapse around them. Ethan and Emily mirrored his actions, their grips firm. With a collective effort, they pushed back against the shadows, their light shining brighter one heartbeat at a time, but just as they settled into their rhythm, dark hands broke free like vipers, lashing out towards them with a vengeful ferocity. The earth quaked violently beneath them, cracking open like an ancient tomb teeming with unspeakable horrors. Face after anguished face emerged from the abyss, distorted and twisted into grotesque shapes. Each one screamed their own tragedy, the sounds resonating like an unholy choir stirring old ghosts. One figure, a child with hollow eyes and a silent mouth, reached for Ethan, drawing closer, pulling a secret sorrow from deep inside him. "Stop it." Ethan choked, every muscle in his body tensing as he felt his own fears resonate. "I don't want this." Jake felt the weight of Ethan's dread wash over him, a tidal wave threatening to drown them all. It pulled at each of them, whispering dark promises of despair. "Face it." Jake yelled again, but it felt fainter this time, barely rising above the cacophony. They couldn't lose each other. They couldn't be consumed by the shadows of anguish. In a sudden shift, the dark figures coalesced into one form, a colossal manifestation of their worst fears, towering above them with a face that mirrored their deepest regrets. Its eyes glowed with the weight of their past, and its mouth twisted into a smirk, baring teeth that glimmered like daggers. "You think you can escape?" The figure taunted, its voice a low rumble that vibrated through the air. "You've only just begun. Your pain is eternal." "No!" Jake shouted, fury surging through him. "Our pain doesn't define us. We choose who we are. Together." As if fueled by his words, Emily's light burned brighter, forming a protective barrier around them. The light shimmered, a soothing balm against the encroaching darkness, momentarily pushing the shadows back. Hope surged, igniting truth within their hearts. This was not just a battle against the shadows but a confrontation with the darkest parts of themselves, and then, like lightning in a storm, Jake's own memories surged forth, memories of laughter, dreams, and moments his brother's presence had brought him joy. He brought them to the forefront of his mind, throwing open the floodgates of resolute love and raw desires, refusing to be shackled by sorrow. "Together!" He roared again, and the others rallied behind him, their voices joining in harmony, strength growing as they confronted the abyss. The shadows hesitated, flickering with uncertainty as their fears turned into light. But just when it seemed they could drive the shadows back forever, the deformed face of their fears grimaced, its voice slicing through the moment of hope. "You will see what true darkness can do when your bond is tested." Suddenly, the horror coiled tightly around them, and the brightness surged, flickering dangerously, threatening to be snuffed out. Jake realized the echo that had been lurking, the unresolved pain that kept them bound in this nightmare. "Stay strong," he shouted, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. They had to face the depths of their pain, all of it, to truly break free. With a jolt, the ground beneath them lurched, and a blinding flash enveloped them, leaving them on the brink of something far more sinister than what they had known. What awaited them beyond the light felt like an interlude to an even darker chapter, one that breathed new life into their misery and could possibly expose raw truths they weren't prepared to confront. Would they be strong enough to endure the next wave of darkness, or would it consume them entirely? The blinding light faded, replaced by an unsettling stillness that weighed down on their chests like a heavy shroud. Jake blinked rapidly, trying to make sense of the chaos that had engulfed them. The cacophony of screams and sorrow had been replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the sound of their ragged breaths. "Where are we?" Sarah's voice trembled, her eyes darting as she hunched close to the ground, clutching Jake's arm like a lifeline. "Just stay close," he urged, glancing at Ethan and Emily, who stood with wide, fearful eyes. They all felt it, the encroaching darkness swirling in the corners, ready to descend at any moment. It was as if their breath had summoned it, inviting a new horror to join the fray, but they had to press forward. They had to find a way through whatever this place was. Even in their fear, adrenaline edged them onward, a drive to face whatever terrible truth awaited them. Ahead, a shadow flickered, forming into the outline of another figure. This one moved differently than the others, a haunting grace that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. As it drew closer, a chill swept through the group, raising the fine hairs on Jake's arms. It emerged from the darkness, its features sharpening into clarity. A teacher, a woman dressed in old-fashioned clothing, her eyes sunken deep into her skull, filled with both longing and disappointment. "Welcome, children," she said softly, her voice reverberating as if it was echoing through an endless corridor. You've come to learn, what you thought you could escape. What do you mean? Ethan burst out, stepping forward, desperation fueling his courage. We didn't come here to learn anything. We just want to get out. We aren't afraid of you. Hurt flashed across the teacher's face, her expression shifting like clouds before a storm. Ah, but fear has a funny way of binding us, doesn't it? You think you can conquer it? Let me show you what you've hidden away. With a flick of her wrist, shadows swirled, morphing into images, snapshots of their lives spiraling in front of them. Memories of failure, loss, and betrayal flashed before their eyes like a twisted projector. No! Stop! Sra screamed, covering her face with trembling hands. Jake felt bile rise in his throat as he witnessed his own past flickering in and out, moments he had buried deep the moment he lost his brother, the feeling of hopelessness that had clawed at him afterward. Do you understand now? The teacher continued, her voice almost melodic against the backdrop of their torment. You can't escape the truth of what's inside you. It will come for you until you confront it. No! We're stronger than this. Jake shouted, clenching his fists. We can fight back. The shadows intensified, dragging them deeper into their own nightmares. Faces contorted, screaming silently, their pain feeding the grotesque display. Each of them felt themselves being pulled apart, 1,000 memories cutting into their resolve like jagged glass. Together! Emily shouted, reaching for Jake's hand. We need to hold on to each other. The warmth of her grasp ignited something in Jake, a flicker of defiance, an imperceptible spark against overwhelming despair. Together! He echoed, and relief flooded through the group as they bound their hands together, forming a circle. As they stood united, the shadows writhed and twisted like angry serpents, recoiling from the brightness of their connection. But as they pushed against the darkness, it retaliated, lashing out once more to tear them apart. Let go of the past, children. It shadows you. The teacher called as her form began to blur. With every ounce of strength, Jake let the memories of love, laughter, and hope surge back, infusing their collective spirit. And just like that, a sudden force hit them, a memory so bright, so vibrant that it felt like the dawning sun after a long night. Did hope remain? Did their bond really shatter the darkness? But even as they pushed against the tide, the shadows shrieked a different promise, a chilling whisper that sent ice down Jake's spine. You have only begun to uncover the depths of your despair. The ground jolted beneath them again, a warning rumble, as they spiraled into the abyss, their hands slipping, the bonds of light failing. What awaited them in the void? And could they truly confront the darkness that lingered not just around them, but within? The answer loomed just out of reach, thickening the air with unanswered questions as they tumbled deeper into their fate. As they fell, the descent seemed endless, a gaping maw of darkness that swallowed their screams. Time lost meaning as the world around them faded into a cacophony of whispers, the sound tangling with their own pounding hearts. Jake clutched Emily's hand, the grip a lifeline fighting against the gravity of their mutual fears. Then, with a sudden jolt, they landed hard on a cold, stone floor. Gasping, Jake blinked against the dim light, trying to grasp their surroundings. They lay sprawled in what appeared to be an abandoned classroom. Dust hung thick in the air, swirling like restless spirits. Desks lay overturned, and old papers littered the ground, each one a fragment of forgotten lessons. Get up! Ethan urged, his voice a sharp contrast to the surrounding silence. We need to stick together. Sra struggled to her feet, brushing debris from her clothing. Is she still here? The teacher? No, Jake replied, forcing himself to scan the corners of the eerie room. But I don't think we're alone. As echoes of their breaths gave life to the silence, shadows long and grotesque danced along the walls, stretching and shifting as if they had their own intentions. Then a soft sound broke through the distant turning of pages. They exchanged worried glances, slowly edging toward the noise. Is that a book? Emily whispered, pointing towards a large, leather-bound tome perched on a teacher's desk, illuminated by a cracked window. The title embossed across the spine read, Lessons of the Unseen. "I'll check it out," Jake said, stepping cautiously forward. The floor creaked ominously beneath him, protesting each step. The closer he got, the more oppressive the atmosphere felt, as if the air thickened around him. Reaching the desk, Jake hesitated, the tome beckoning him with a hypnotic charm. He leaned forward, fingers grazing the surface. Suddenly, a chill swept through him, sending shudders down his spine. The shadows seemed to fold inward, biding their time, waiting. With a deep breath, he opened the book. The pages fluttered wildly, revealing sketches of faces twisted in agony, each page a portrait of despair. Descriptions of dark lessons filled the spaces between. The text was written in a hurried scrawl, frantically detailing methods of confronting nightmares, but at the center of every passage was a warning: to deny your darkness is to let it control you. "What does it say?" Sarah asked, peering over his shoulder, her heart quickening with dread. "It's about facing fears, pain. It seems to be a guide," Jake replied, his voice shaky. A low hiss cut through the air, startling them. The shadows began to draw closer, spurred by their curiosity. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of anguished voices wailing from the depths of the dark. "They want us to face it," Ethan said, panic squeezing his throat. "But what if confronting it only makes it worse?" Suddenly, the heavy book flew from Jake's grip, slamming shut with a deafening crack. The moment reverberated through the air, silencing the whispers for a heartbeat. From the shadows emerged figures draped in darkness, and the temperature dropped. The teacher stood at the edge of the light, more imposing than before, her eyes now ablaze with fury. "You think you can escape your truths?" Her voice boomed, as the shadow figures hunched forward, eager for the hunt. "They're manifestations of your past," Jake shouted, standing taller, though fear twisted his stomach. "We can face you. We will." The shadows, now restless, surged over the classroom, forming terrifying shapes, each one an embodiment of their deepest regrets. "Then prepare to learn," the teacher intoned, her voice echoing with a dreadful promise. "The lesson will be your reckoning." As the figures charged toward them, desperation surged. "Together!" Jake yelled, clutching Emily and Sarah's hands tightly like before. They had fought once against the darkness. Could they do it again? But this time, they hadn't just fought shadows. They were facing the reality of the pain and regret they thought they could leave behind. What truth would rise to the surface in the clash of light and dark? And beyond fear, could they truly wield the power of unity to confront their pasts? With darkness swelling around them, Jake's breath hitched. Would they break, or would they discover the strength hidden within? A single thought lingered: this is just the beginning. The shadows pulsated, breathing with an energy that felt alive yet malevolent. Jake squeezed Emily's and Sarah's hands tight, their united front resonating against the encroaching void. "Together!" he shouted again, his voice a beacon of determination slicing through fear. The teacher's cackles filled the room, sending shivers down their spines. "You cannot fathom the depths of what lies within." But Jake felt something shift. It wasn't just about fear anymore, it was about resilience. Memories mingled with courage, building up within him like a raging storm. "Don't let them win!" Jake shouted, eyes blazing, as the figures charged. Each one lurked with faces contorted in anguish, representing broken promises, shattered dreams, and unspoken regrets. "We have to confront them." The shadows lunged, but their unity gave Jake strength. "Face your truth," he yelled, channeling that promise into the core of his being. The air thickened with tension as the figures clawed forward. But the trio stood firm, eyes locked on the grotesque manifestations for what they truly were, their fears, mirroring their vulnerabilities. "Let me show you pain," one of them hissed, a twisted version of Jake's brother, and Jake's heart lurched, but he held his ground. "No! You don't define me!" he shouted, memories of his brother's laughter washing over him like a wave. I remember the joy, not just the loss. Behind him, Sra took a step forward, her face steeling with resolve. You're not my fear, she declared, facing the figure of her mother, its pleading expression morphing into something sinister. You can't drag me into your darkness. In that moment, she let the lingering love flow through her, and it shone like a lighthouse in a storm. Together, echoed Emily, her voice ringing with fire. I want to become what I'm afraid of. You don't have power over me. They weren't just fighting against shadows, they were embracing their identities, banishing the darkness together. The black figures wavered, shrieking as the trio focused their light on them. Keep pushing, Jake urged, feeling their confidence swell as each of them invoked a cherished memory, a little brother's first steps, a mother's unwavering love, a friend who never faltered. Each memory ignited something profound, a tether of light that made the shadows recoil. As the shadows momentarily faltered, the teacher's fury escalated. Fools! You think these fickle memories will save you? Her voice echoed, threatening to swallow them whole. Pain does not vanish, it consumes. No, it transforms. Jake countered fiercely, feeling an undeniable rush of hope. We conquer fear not by running, but by unraveling it piece by piece. The shadows began morphing, unraveling into wisps of memory. Look! Emily squeaked, pointing as each dark figure shimmered, their forms collapsing into silhouettes of light. We're pushing them back. Each chant of affirmation propelled them. All the regrets, failures, and fears began cascading out, absorbed by the light like black ink in water. With one final push, they linked their arms, bracing against the storm. The brightness surged forward like a tidal wave, obliterating the wretched recollections. For a moment, everything was still. Then with a thunderous crash, the shadows shattered, erupting into a mist of glimmering fragments that dusted the room in shimmering light. Gasping for air, Jake blinked against the brightness. When the light faded, the classroom transformed. The air was still, yet heavy with remnants of memories stirred but not forgotten. The teacher remained, but her face softened, her expression no longer one of malice but understanding, a flicker of gratitude in her gaze. Perhaps there is grace in acceptance, she whispered, her form growing transparent like mist dispersing into golden rays. You've confronted what was hidden, and only through acknowledgement can one truly learn. Jake felt a surge of warmth, the darkness that once cornered him now retreating into the recesses of his mind. The teacher's veiled form began to dissolve, revealing a brighter space behind her, a portal to something new. Go forth, she murmured, her ethereal presence becoming a soft glow. Your journey is not just about facing what haunts you, but finding the strength in every scar. With hearts unburdened, the friends exchanged glances, acknowledgement lighting their faces. They had merged their struggles and faced the dark together. We did it. Sra breathed, relief washing over her. Together, Jake affirmed, his heart thundering in unison with theirs. They stepped towards the portal, hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever awaited them beyond the classroom. As they crossed the threshold, a warm breeze kissed their cheeks, and the familiar sound of laughter echoed around them. They weren't just stepping away from fear, they were stepping into their futures, armed with newfound resilience, daring to forge ahead into the light. The school bell rang, echoing through the hallways, pulling them back to reality. But the weight of history was no longer as pressing. They still had scars, but now they shimmered like battle medals, each one a testament to their survival. As they walked back through the warm light of day, Jake couldn't help but smile, knowing that friendship and understanding had made all the difference. They were forever changed, and the shadows now served as guides, a reminder of their journey. This was goodbye to the fear that haunted them and the beginning of something new. And now, as they moved forward with unbreakable bonds, they knew they were ready to embrace their lives, boldly facing each challenge that lay ahead. You need to subscribe now to catch all our exclusive stories and be part of our journey. Don't leave it to chance. Smash that like button now, and show your support for more adventures. Also, flood the comments section with your thoughts. What did you think of this conclusion? I want to hear from you. And remember, don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Let us keep our community growing. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.